Well, good morning, good morning. It's a short talk in the trailer with the old guy. Get this, a short talk in the trailer about the Trinity? Oh. Uh, my correspondent, the young lady who leaves messages for me after some of these videos, Cindy, asked a question. Last night I posted a video, and boy, I was out of it. I had me about 3 beers in me, and I was just so tired. It was kind of talking like this. And I left it alone. I went ahead and posted it. I don't like. I don't think I was drunk, but you take all that tired and add in a couple of beers, and it was like, and so that's why I wanted the beers. What I intended to do was go to bed and lay down for an hour. Did I do that? No. I started recording, which is the reasonable thing to do, or seemed at the time. Anyway, boiling some eggs here over there on the oven. I hope on the range. I hope I can remember to pull them off. I've actually burnt boiled eggs before. That's not a good sign. So I'm going to give them a few minutes and have some breakfast. 2 eggs. That's it. And I'm not really hungry. Anyhow, I thought to myself, this is so strange. I got up several hours ago. It was about, actually I know about what time it was. It was 3:40. I looked at my clock in the back. See, when I came home from Colorado, there'd been a power outage. I don't know how long, but when that happens, the little digital clock starts flashing. It forgets everything. So you have to reset it. Well, I reset it that day, and I must have been really tired because I knew I needed to get up the next morning and go to work. So I thought, well, I want to have the alarm in case I sleep in. I almost never do, but I thought, what if I do? So anyhow, I was off by over 2 hours. it was, I was reading the thing as 5:47 or 5:48. In reality, it was 3:40. And I was sitting here and I was perusing a couple of comments and looking at some videos and just thinking, well, I got to get going and get ready for work here. It's going to be 6 pretty quick. It was 4 in the morning. So at any rate, that's kind of gives you a clue about my, efficiency curve here. There was a comment in there about the Trinity. You can read it yourself. But the point is that I just thought, wow. So now we got a plumber, an old guy, who's going to give us the short skinny on the three who is one, the Almighty. I thought, well, that might be a recurring topic. Let's say, in other words, let's give it a rough outline here, if we will. Because let's face it, otherwise I really doubt that this is going to work. But at any rate, the short version being, thanks for the idea, Cindy. We'll give it a try. I mean, if I'm wrong, they might put a red mark on my paper. I remember when I was a little kid at school, the teachers always used red pencils to correct your paper. And, you don't want to see any marks on there except check, 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 you're correct. I used to be good at taking tests and stuff when I was a kid in school because it was easy. But none of that stuff ever made any sense to me. I just thought, just answer the questions, then you can leave. It wasn't like I was actually learning anything. I just remembered it for 5 minutes and spit out the right answer. This ain't rocket science. But at any rate, speaking of rocket science, I remember, I think it's Augustine, but I might be mangling this. Oh, you want to understand the Trinity? Oh, okay. All you got to do is just get a teacup and empty the ocean or something like that. Just keep carrying teacup loads out. In other words, he's unfathomable. Now, I don't know if you know what that means, but a fathom, I think, was 6 feet. An unfathomable depth means we've got a long, long rope in our boat, and we're going to put down a weight and find out how deep the water is because we don't want to drag bottom. Well, the rope was only so long. I mean, you're not going to carry an infinite length rope. So, well, that would be a weird rope to have around. But at any rate, so unfathomable meant we can't reach the bottom. We don't know how much is down there. Well, the mighty God is he's more like that than anything else in terms of there's a sense of an overflowingness, a transcendent God who is above or outside, we might say, what we call 3D reality, historical space-time. He's in it with us, yes, but if you want to think about his presence in our lives, let's face it, he's a spirit and he's invisible. But invisible doesn't necessarily mean not real. You remember, think of that guy, I forgot the story, Jimmy Stewart with his big imaginary rabbit. I forgot the name of the rabbit. Harold or something, I don't know. But at any rate, only Jimmy Stewart could see the thing, see? And it's not like that. In other words, when we say something's invisible, we mean we're in it, or it's in us. So take, for instance, atmosphere. Do you see the atmosphere right now between you and me? No, I don't either. Why? Because the air is clear. And I think, although I can't prove this, that if I was a fish and I lived in the water, to me, the water would be invisible because I'm in it. You don't see what you're in. So if you think of the Almighty as the invisible spirit, practically, well, many people would have agreed with the idea of the Great Spirit, especially, I can think of native peoples here in the United States, probably down South America. They had their own traditions before Christianity showed up on these shores, and they spoke often, and still do, of the Great Spirit. I have no problem with that. What Christianity is asserting, though, in terms of this triune reality estimate kind of idea, in other words, he's the author of reality, can you please give us an estimate of what he does? And he does a lot of stuff. Actually, most everything. Think of it like this. I wear glasses, right? Now I see clearly. No, I don't. Why? Because there's specks up here. Now, I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to see the specks because the camera ain't that good. What those specks are is I was sweating and stuff yesterday. Salt, water, whatever, dirt. And it's just dripping down. It's like, I'm not going to spend time cleaning my glasses. I got stuff to do. But I needed to see clearly, right? So in other words, you don't ordinarily see your glasses. Why? Because you see through them. You see everything else by them. And it's a little bit like that. It's a order, a sort of a disjunct order sequence. We don't sit around and speculate about whether God may or may not exist, because we know very well in our hearts he wired it in when you were born, when you were conceived. You know God. You know he exists, and you can deny it if you like. Go ahead. Knock yourself out. I don't care. But you know you're fighting yourself, don't you? And so, in other words, this is the way the apostles spoke in terms of the book of Romans, is that, now he didn't say it the way I just did, but the idea is you're design engineered. There's pre-wired connections in here that only make sense if they connect back to the Father, to the Son, to the Spirit, the one true God. So, eyeglasses, that's one example of the Trinity. Pretty bad one, huh? But what I mean is, you don't see God as an object to study, but rather by and with and through him, you see everything else. I hope that's being clear. So there was a guy named Rushdoony. He was a kind of a philosopher kind of guy, but he was also a good Christian. And he was a Reformed dude, so naturally I would have liked him. Anyway, he's dead now. But Rushdoony had some interesting ideas about this sort of thing. Now, my eggs have been rolling over here for several minutes. Hey, I can check that right there. Yeah, they've been... I'm going to just take this with me. There you go. My eggs have been rolling for 8 minutes, and I'm just going to turn them down. And then we'll cool them down in the sink here so I can grab one and not burn my finger. Too bad. Okay, got them out of there. Wow, them rascals are hot. It's because they're in boiling water. Huh. Well, you got to move fast. I got them things in my palm here. So what I do is just let them sit on the table for a little while, cool off, because that's too hot. And then I'll eat them in a few minutes. So, here's that plug in. I got a cord. Boy, I'm all techie this morning, ain't I? So anyway, Rushdoony, interesting guy. I think one of the most helpful things that I recall, and I read his stuff like over 30 years ago, so this is not going to be a good summary. But the central idea I got out of it was that if you take a look at human psychology, if you take a look at history, if you take a look at politics, if you take a look at the way people actually get along, or don't, as the case may be, because an awful lot of our problems are not really physical issues in the universe. a lot of our problems have to do with getting along with people because, well, people can be really contrary. And frankly, often are. The thing that happens in politics, and you'll see this all the time, see if I can roll me to the left. There we go. Mr. Techie does it again. The thing that you notice in politics and in families and in communities is a polarity switch. You end up A or B. You must be in or out. You must be with us or against us. You must be a Democrat or you must be a Republican. Must. But it's always a two-poled system. And that's a clue. You should pay attention. If you're trapped in one of those things in your mind, if you think that it must be A or it must be B and there are no other options, then you're the one who's operating without a three-legged stance. You always need 3 points. When you're rock climbing, always keep 3 points on the rock, minimum. It's the safe thing to do. You can keep your balance. It's stable. A 2-point balance is unstable, and you can see it every day. Look at our political system. It's just falling apart. And so, in other words, because there is no good third option, and by the way, I think Robert Kennedy might be going third party. That's an interesting idea. It's like that. What happens is we end up thinking something that sounds a little bit like this. Now, this is from Rushdoony. What is the supreme value? In other words, what are we really fighting about? What are we fighting over? And what we're fighting over is a two-pronged system. Either at the heart of things, I, the individual, me, am the most important thing in terms of the estimate. In other words, you can't have a society without individual persons. So the individual person obviously comes first, right? So the rights of the individual, the expression of the individual, and that's kind of where the American Republic originally went. Now it's going the other way. But again, switch this way. There's nothing outside that system from the people's perspective. So in a Trinitarian model, if you look at it culturally, either you're going to have, I am the center at the nexus of what we must consider as crucial, or here's the other option, the group, the society, the family, we, us, maybe the cult. But the point is, what's the most important thing? It's the party. Everything must serve the party. All individuals must bend and, submit to the party, because the crucially important thing is that it survives and it succeeds. And so people get trapped in these kind of things, like doing that all the time. The reality is the many, that's me, is it the one, that's me, the individual, or is it the many? Is it the group, the collective, or is it the individual that is of supreme value, supreme importance? And we tear ourselves apart for that reason, because we were pre-wired to think of a third option and we're not considering it. Here's a consideration for you. In terms of which is the supreme value, which is the one we must vote for and endorse every day and sell advertising for, is it the one, the individual, or is it the many, the group? The answer is yes. He does that a lot, by the way. You might want to get used to it. Is it the single person, or is it the group that's most important? Answer, yes. And if you apply that back to him, he himself, now you can see a little bit, by faith, I mean. You're still not going to see an invisible spirit, I hope. But the thing is that when you apply both as equally valid, what's the most important thing? You. What's the most important thing? Us. I didn't defeat myself just then. I said it's one thing. And the one thing is under his care. The one thing is in a world granted to us by him where we're given time to work these things out, time to come to considerations, time. He gives us time as a gift. You must use it in your mind as a gift. And the whole point of time is hope. Hope means the good end, the good conclusion, where the one and the many are not at war, but in fact they love each other without destroying each other's individuality. In fact, valuing and enjoying each other's individuality and just being glad. Gladness and hope and joy. All this stuff comes from him because he's the author. He's the guy that built this thing. So, Cindy, I don't think that's a very good explanation of the Trinity, if you'd like my opinion. But in other words, the way I'm saying this is that we're never going to prove like an axiom, like say Pythagoras or Euclid did with math. We're never going to prove God's existence. We're never going to prove the Trinity. It's not that sort of a thing, because rather, in that the Trinity gives us life, in that we are called to order, in that he offers mercy and generates new options. All of that is a sphere that we're operating in called life or history, and he owns it. He wrote the book. He built the sucker, and when we have these things that are pulling us apart, whether it's socially or whether you're being pulled apart on the inside, it's almost always what I call a polarity trap, where it must be this or it must be that, and we're not seeing a third thing. We're designed to see a third thing, but that third thing is invisible. Oh, okay. So in other words, our minds are already prepared to accept this, and yet it's not there. We walk around acting like Trinity. That's ridiculous. Who could believe such thing? But it's by our own understanding of what is most crucial that we muscle him out of the picture. We don't want to welcome our maker. We don't want to welcome the one who causes reality to cohere from one moment to the next. We don't want to welcome him who invented everything that we value and love, especially the beautiful stuff. I mean, look outside at night at the stars. Look at a green countryside like I saw up in Colorado. Look at beautiful mountains. Why do you think you like those things? Why do you think you're attracted to beauty? It's built in. It was wired in. He made you that way. And why would that be? To perceive a bit that, oh, wait a minute, then beauty itself must be in him. The one who is three, the three who is one. Beauty and truth reside in him without warring. Why? Because he's in the middle of it. So in other words, if you think about it that way, maybe that'll help. Think about it, eyeglasses, maybe, I don't know. Think about, I've talked about this before, Greg Braden, and I don't want to wear you out. This is going to be real brief, I hope. Left side of my head, where's that? Over here on my right hand. And what's that all about? It must make truth. In other words, it makes tracks. There's a linear function, a rational process. You can follow it through. The story makes sense, step by step, page by page, and we can follow like a map what happened. That's over here. On this side, over here, that's this one. On the left hand is a different opinion, different perspective. Hey, let's step back. What's the big picture? How does this pattern, have I seen this pattern before? And what does it make me feel like? In other words, am I comfortable with this situation? So that's I'm processing over here now. But there's a center process right here, and that's the one we forget. We forget that we are human people, and we have hearts, we have emotions, we have passion, there's things that when I say I love the Father, when I love the Son, I love the Spirit, or I love human beings, I love you. We're speaking from down here, but we need all three. And if you're only up here, or if you're doing something like this or something like this, you're running in circles. You're chasing your tail. We were pre-designed to operate on a three-pegged, think about it this way. How many pegs does it take for a stool to be stable? At least three. Got to have at least three. You could have 4, you could have 7, you could have 25. But you need a minimum of 3 for a stool to be stable. That's why we design them that way, because we inherently understand stability functions 3 points on the rock at all times. And he's the rock. So if you can, it's like a category shift. I don't know exactly how to say it, because let's face it, I don't really know very much. I'm just a plumber. But the point is, and I'm trying to sum up here for sure, the situation is that we always think that we're in a position where we can treat God himself as an object, where we can study him, or know him or find out about him like you'd study, a rock or maybe a turtle going by. No, that's an artificial stance, and we're bound to delude ourselves. The other way to see it is no, unless he's in us, I'll never understand anything at all. And he is in us because of his goodness. So, Cindy, thumbs down, says this gringo. But I'm going to tell you what I'll do. I'm going to think about it some more, and maybe this week turn this into a couple of episodic deals. I mean, who's going to exhaust the topic of the Trinity in a 5-minute talk? I mean, cut me some slack. But I think Rushdoony's analysis and the couple of crummy ones I came up with are about as close as I'm going to get this morning. The idea is, what is the supreme value? Is it the one? Is it the group? And the answer is something else. He who is, was, and ever shall be. He's the supreme value, and we don't value him on our own. He valued us. He loved us, and we're responding. We're beginning to come out of our coma. We're beginning to say, oh, the life maker, the life giver, the one who came to find us down in this crazy rat hole. He's the one that really matters. It's about him. It's about his honor. It's about his glory. It's about his doing and his speaking and his being with and in you. So, summary, yeah, maybe it's okay. I don't know. But the thing is just got to remember, don't you fall into worry. Don't you fall into fear. Don't you fall into any of the man-made schemes that we use to try to shear him off, get him out of the picture so that we can make sense of things the way we want, because that's what it was all about back at Eden. That's what our parents did. It changed us. They showed God the back of their hand with one of them fingers mixed up, and it hurt us. It changed us. It bent us. We've been ruined as creatures. But he's starting over. He's giving us a new chance. He's giving you life, and he gives you the ability to trust. Trust him, yes, first, but to trust even humans, and maybe even trust yourself a little bit. That's getting sketchy. But the point is that we keep trying to turn him into an object. And you've been turned into an object before, haven't you? People treat you like a thing and not a human. How do you like that anyway? What does that do for you? And when we do that to him, we just cripple ourselves. We just make ourselves unable to carry out our mission in life. What's our mission in life? Live unto him. Walk in faith. Believe that he is the one the Father sent. I mean, Jesus. Believe that Jesus is the one who we were supposed to interact with, because God knows we're blind. God knows we're stone cold crazy. He sent his son. That means a human being. A real man, the real man, maybe the original new real man. I mean, this guy's something else. Wonderful. He knew that we wouldn't be able to figure this out on our own. In fact, we don't even want to, unless he helps us. But he sent his son to teach. So hear the words of the Lord. If you want to understand the Trinity, listen to the second person of it. He says, I and the Father are one. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. He says things like that. He says a lot of other good stuff too. Go read your Bible. But if you think that I'm going to sit down and prove on a chalkboard behind me the Trinity and show you how it works, well, sorry, wrong gringo. We're all learn a little bit at a time. And Cindy, thanks for the idea. And again, we'll try to maybe muscle some of this stuff in the future after I kind of cogitate on it a little bit and maybe find a way to say it that isn't going to kill you to hear. You know what I mean? Well, this guy, please shut up. I never shut up. I'm too busy talking about Jesus. And you know what? He's the one who gave us the ability to speak, and he gave it to us so that we could communicate with him. That's what you were made for. Connect with your true Father. Connect with the Son. Connect in spirit by the power of the Spirit. So this is how I say it to myself. If I'm praying, who am I praying to? I'm praying to God the Father. Well, how did I get there? I don't know how to make that happen. Well, under the headship of Jesus Christ as the Messiah of Israel and all the Gentiles who were being called to him, he stands as our head, he stands as our mediator, and he intercedes for us, pleading his blood, pleading his righteousness on behalf of human beings. That's you and me. That's where we come in. So how do we pray? We pray to the Father under the cover, under the headship, in union with Christ. But that goes nowhere without the power of Spirit. And the Spirit comes along witnessing to Christ. Behold the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. And so you get a little idea of how the Trinity works. Each person in the community, we'll call it the community of three, admires and loves the other. And each person is involved with and through each other's lives, such that there is no conflict in terms of which is the most important. Is it the group or the one? And the answer in him is yes. And he's so good. He's bringing that river of peace, that river of understanding, even into lives of people like you and me. Got to eat my eggs. Get to work. You guys have a good day. And well, you don't need any eggs. You can have some fruit.